Welcome to Nolan Knows. It's time for the lightning round. First on the list, a New York City storefront could open the first ever bar for pregnant women. We don't know whether they're going to serve coffee or alcohol or exactly what the point is. It is an intriguing idea. If there's a 9-month waiting list, nobody will ever be in. There is what they're calling a hairy question from the Supreme Court. Should prisoners be able to grow beards? This grows out of an Arkansas rule for a prison where there is a Muslim who wants a half-inch beard. Yeah, you know, at least he's got a head he can grow it on, but the truth is a 1/4 inch more beard from their rule is a 1/4 inch. Just not going to make it more dangerous to be in that prison. Also on the list, a story about a 4-year-old who brought heroin to daycare and gave it out to his fellow students as candy. The truth is the government makes this problem possible with its war on drugs. Were it not for the war on drugs, Mom wouldn't have been hiding the drugs in a knapsack that she inadvertently gave to Junior. Next on the list, AT&T, they're going to pay $105 million over unlawful billing. You know, I don't mind them paying money back to the people they cheated. That's the way it ought to be. They ought not to be giving the money to the government, though. That's not where it should go. It should go back to the people that they cheated. There is allegedly a sharp rise in Cuban migration, and it's stirring worries of a mass exodus. Hey, who wouldn't want to get out of Cuba? It's communist. That means you don't own your own private property, you have no way of getting ahead, you can't get rich, you can't be successful. I'd be leaving Cuba too. Also in the lightning round, a story about a terminally ill woman who's fighting for others' rights to end their own lives. She has a blastoma, a tumor, a brain tumor, and it's fatal, and the doctors are telling her that her end of life is going to be very painful. One of the things we in this country fail to grasp is that our bodies are our own. We get to choose what we put in them, and we get to end our lives when we choose. It's a sad story, but she has a right to do what she feels is best for her own life. This segment of the program is called Missed in the Media. It hasn't gotten a lot of coverage, but up in Portland, Oregon, they've decided they're going to drop Columbus Day. It's coming up next week, you know. I never understood Columbus Day. I always thought it should be Americos Vespucci Day, but that name seems a little too long to fit in a little calendar. But the politically correct people up in Portland, Oregon have decided we're going to call this Indigenous Peoples Day. You know, this isn't really to make indigenous people feel good. It's really just to make white people feel good. You see, we feel guilty in this country over things that we haven't even done. We feel guilty about things that our great-great-great-great-grandparents did. I don't know quite why, but we do, and I think that's what Indigenous Peoples Day is all about. Knock off the Indigenous Peoples Day. It doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't make anybody feel better. It doesn't do anything for us. It's just another example of political correctness run amok. It's Columbus Day. It's been Columbus Day for years and years and years. Let's keep celebrating that and quit confusing the calendar. It's time for the story of the week. The story of the week, sadly, is Ebola, but it's more than just the story of the week. It's probably more like the stories of the week. We'll start off with Dallas, Texas, where the first fatality from Ebola in the United States took place. First problem, of course, is that the family thought perhaps this patient wasn't treated right because he was black. This, of course, is utter nonsense. You've got a guy who snuck out of the country, lied to get out of his country because he knew he had been infected. He helped carry a woman who died of Ebola both to the hospital and back. Then, after breaking that rule, came into the United States, and frankly, why not? That's where I'd want to get sick if I had Ebola. I wouldn't want to get sick anyplace else. And he got treatment, I'm guessing, at the taxpayer expense because I'm sure he didn't have Blue Cross or Blue Shield. And I'm sure he got the finest care and attention in the world. So calling Jesse Jackson down there to complain about the care is just nonsense. But there are several other problems that we have with Ebola, and they're part of this story as well. One of them is that we continue to fly planes in and out of the countries where this is a problem. A lot of people just don't want Americans going there. Interestingly, the government isn't interested in saying, moratorium, can't fly there, but employees of the airlines are. In fact, several airline employees have decided to go out on strike because they think if they have to clean airplanes that have come from a country full of people who are infected with this disease, that they need to be protected themselves, and they don't think they are. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the free market at work. That's people saying, nope, it's too dangerous, it's not risky, it's too risky, it's not worth the money, and I'm not doing the job. Well, my hat's off to those employees. I wouldn't do the job either. What we really need to do is quarantine the countries that have the problem. We need to quit bringing people back and forth without putting them in quarantine themselves until the incubation period ends. I don't think the government is really doing the best job they can at protecting us, and that doesn't mean I expect us to have some huge outbreak of Ebola, but I certainly think that we could be doing some smarter and better things than we are. This segment of the program is called Nolan Says No. The CEO of Microsoft came out and made a statement that he busily has been walking back about women in the workforce and telling them that they shouldn't be asking for a raise, that in fact they should trust the system. Well, I don't blame him for walking it back. It's the silliest thing I've ever heard, and how a CEO could utter those words is beyond me. There is some disparity in pay between men and women, but part of the reason is that men, maybe it's the testosterone, will go to their boss and say, I think I'm entitled to a raise. Women, on the other hand, tend not to do that. So why he would give this as advice is beyond me. Ladies, if you think you're being underpaid, if you think you're worth more, go to your boss and ask. If he won't give you a raise and you still think you're worth more, go check the competition and see if they'll hire you for more. But this brings us to another problem, and that is this assertion that somehow women are being cheated all over the country and underpaid. It simply isn't the truth. The fact of the matter is that there are a variety of reasons why women may find in the aggregate that they're not quite paid as much. Oftentimes women will quit a job to stay home and raise their children, or they won't take a job that puts them on the road over long term because that takes them away from their family. Men, on the other hand, tend to do those sorts of things. But if it were true, if employers could get women to do the same job as men, work the same hours, take the same risks, and do it for less, there wouldn't be any men left in the workforce.